Hello and welcome to another episode of the Video Creator Show. I am your host, Grant, here with our other host, Augie Johnston. And today we are talking about sponsorships. Sponsorships are when a company agrees to pay you some money in exchange for you advertising for them. They come in many different forms, and there's a lot of things to know, a lot of ins and outs of the business, and you may not necessarily know how to conduct yourself when a company comes to you and wants to give you money to advertise their product. It can be surprisingly confusing. You may find yourself taking deals you shouldn't have, or maybe you don't get paid what you deserve, and we are here today to help you through this confusing and oh so interesting process of sponsorships. So first things first when it comes to sponsorships, this is kind of a mid-tier YouTuber topic. You probably won't get many emails from sponsors until you start hitting about 50,000 views a video. That seems to be about the threshold when you'll start getting actual legitimate emails from companies that want to give you money. So like Augie, you have some experience with sponsorships. When did you feel like you started to get attention from companies?
Well, it did take a while. I think that 50,000 mark that you mentioned, I had never heard that before until you mentioned it. And it really, when I heard it, I said, yeah, that seems about right. So, I would say that was probably about the mark. You know, I had a couple videos that were blowing up to 300, 400,000. But you know, the standard video when I was like, okay, yeah, solid video was like 50K, you know, a bad video would be like 10K or lower. And yeah, I mean, the thing that's going to happen too, and we'll talk more about this, is you could get people start reaching out to you from the beginning, but beware, because there's a lot of trickery with sponsorships. When, you know, like new brands are going to be reaching out to you, it's called cold emailing, and be ready for it once you start to get a little bit of attraction. But yeah, to answer your question, 50,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So it's kind of an interesting threshold when you start reaching that part of your YouTube journey, because I think getting attention is part of the validation that comes from YouTube. And when you start getting attention from companies, that feels really good. But you do want to be careful. So you kind of mentioned that you need to tread lightly in this situation, and totally agree. So one example of how some people get, I don't want to say screwed through sponsorships, but they may not get paid what they deserve when a sponsor only wants to pay you commissions. So this is when a company comes to you and they're like, hey, we don't want to pay you money up front, but what we will do is you will get a percentage of every sale that you give us. If somebody signs up using your link for their product, then you get a percentage of each sale. And I think that is a legitimate way to get some money from a sponsorship, but it should never be the end-all be-all of a deal, in my opinion. And the reason for this is twofold. One, especially if it's like kind of a new company and you don't necessarily know if their back end is working very well, then if they don't have their stuff together, then you could be left holding the bag. So you end up putting an ad in your video, it hurts your watch time, and then you end up not getting paid because, you know, they couldn't even process orders correctly or something. That's kind of rare, but it does happen. And another reason for this is just like, keep in mind whenever you put an advertisement in your video, so you take a minute and you put it in the middle of your video and you're like, hey guys, go check out G Fuel or whatever it is, that will hurt the watch time of your video, because people, you know, it's not that they hate ads, but they would rather not watch them, so they will skip through them. So keep in mind that you should get paid up front always, because you are always going to be, to some extent, hurting your content when you put an ad in it. And, you know, I don't want to be dramatic about this and say it's going to hurt your video, but you need to be careful with watch time, because as we know, YouTube depends on watch time. Watch time is king. The more minutes your video racks up, the more views your video will get. So when people are kind of skipping through parts of your video, you're going to get less minutes. So I guess like, Augie, do you have any advice? So let's say a sponsor comes to you and they're like, hey, we want you to help us sell our basketballs, but we only want to pay you commission. Like, how do you decide what you're worth? Like, how do you even know when to come back and say, hey, I want this much?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think You know, when somebody comes to you, and that's a little bit different than a sponsorship. Like you should start thinking about that as like an affiliate type partnership or something like that, because you want money up front, right? You want the money up front no matter what. If it makes sense to have them as an affiliate because you already use them, and you know you're gonna put that in the description down below. My advice to you would be is come up with a deal where they sponsor and they get that spot in the video and they pay you a lump sum for that. And then also you are getting paid on top of that through affiliate commissions, right? So if that's how they're going to come at you and say, hey, we just want to do this on a commission thing, you know, nothing up front, then you say, okay, well, I'll do the affiliate thing, but we do need to have that upfront fee. And that's a win-win, I think, for both. Maybe you could even discount it a little bit. There could be something you could do there. You could find some middle ground maybe to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up affiliate links or affiliate programs in general, because they are slightly different than sponsorships. So when I say don't take commission deals, I'm not saying don't take affiliate deals, because affiliates and commission deals are essentially the same thing. But the nice thing about affiliate deals is you only have to, like, you technically don't have to advertise them at all. Usually, it kind of depends on the deal, but you can just briefly mention like, hey, check out the link in the description for so-and-so. And that's it. You don't need a dedicated 90-second ad. You can just kind of in every video say a little bit, and then you'll get a little bit of traffic every video to your affiliates, and then over time that builds up. What we're talking about today is more sponsorships where you dedicate a section of your video. And so as far as knowing what you're worth, in knowing what to even say to a sponsor with what you want. My old manager, so we had a company, I guess it's fine if I say the company, they were super cool, Long Haul Management. They came to us and they were like, hey, we can get you lots of sponsors. And so they would take 20% of each sponsor, at least with our particular deal, and they would tell us, the main guy there would tell us that for every 100,000 views you get on a video, you deserve $3,000. And so over the course of my YouTube career with Treesicle, we would often try to hit that mark. Sometimes we would often upsell, try to say like $4,000 for this video that we expect to get 100,000 views. What do you think? And we would almost always get it. So just that is a good number in general. However, keep in mind that when it comes to sponsorships, you should really try to cultivate long-term relationships. So if you think there's a sponsor that would work really well for your channel, so, you know, if you're a movie channel, you talk about movies and Netflix wants to sponsor you or something, you don't necessarily want to squeeze every single dollar out of your first deal with them because you want them to come back. So if you can get 10 sponsorship deals with them because you were reasonably priced, then you're going to get way more money in the long run and you're going to have a consistent income. So that's just something to keep in mind. You don't want to maximize short-term profit. You want to be thinking more long-term. So long-term over short-term, always something to keep in mind pretty much no matter what you're doing, I would say. Then the next thing I wanted to talk about is making sure a sponsor fits your brand. Now, sometimes a brand may come to you and they're like, hey, we have lots of money. We are Raid Shadow Legends and we want to pay you $1 million to pitch our mobile game. That might be worth it for you, but keep in mind that when you do that, you may rub some people the wrong way, or you may just not be delivering what people are expecting from you. So every time you pitch something, you may think that your advertisement exists in a void, but it doesn't. So if you're pitching something that feels irrelevant, like your audience thinks like, why is he advertising this? This seems weird. That is going to take a hit to your reputation. It may not be a big hit. I'm not saying it's going to be catastrophic. I'm just saying over time, if you keep doing these deals, you will be making money, but you may kind of be rubbing your audience in a certain direction without realizing it. So
yeah, I think, hey, I want to say something on that too, because it could be catastrophic. It could be a big deal. if you mess it up, because there's nowadays so many like illegitimate sponsors where they're just really cash grabs. They're just trying to get to your audience and get them on the website. Like imagine, like with crypto nowadays, people are pitching all these fake crypto coins and stuff like that. Not fake ones, but just trash ones. And a lot of social media and YouTuber influencers are getting caught up in this world where, because like you said, we're, some random company, but we can pay a lot of money because maybe they're funded or they're just super profitable. And so you're like, oh yeah, that's the most everyone's ever offered me. And then you end up pitching something to your audience that's almost like unethical. So you do got to be aware of that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you want to make sure whatever company you're doing is ethical. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is just to make sure they have a history. Like if they've only been around for a little bit of time, then you want to make sure that you have lots of phone calls with them and they can kind of back up what they're saying. The best way to do this is, it depends. Like crypto is weird because there's so much like, I don't know, nonsense with it. And I own some crypto. I'm not hating on crypto right now. It's just there's a lot of bad projects out there. And unless you really know what you're doing in that space, you do want to be careful because you could get swindled. You could. But whereas if you're advertising something more normal, like, I don't know, energy drinks or something. Even energy drinks, some people is like, you're selling energy drinks, you're selling drugs. But yeah, the point here is just look into sponsorships who come to you. Don't just look at the money and immediately sign up. Bad things could happen, and you never know. They may not even pay you if they're not a reputable company. You want to make sure these are people who have worked with YouTubers before and who you can trust, who have a good product, and that it's going to work with your audience. And all this stuff is important because sponsorships, in my opinion, they're one of the best ways to get paid on YouTube. Like they're a lot of money up front. So kind of contrasting sponsorships with affiliate programs or with YouTube ad revenue, I would say they're more, you just get more bang for your buck. Again, they can hurt your watch time, but it's nice to if you get like 2 sponsorships in a month, and let's say you release 2 videos, they each get 100,000 views, and you get $3,000 for each of those. That's $6,000 in 1 month, and these are big paydays that you can get. So you just want to make sure that you have your stuff together in this realm. So Augie, we were talking a little before the podcast. You said you had a network that you were with that would get you sponsorships. Like, how did that work exactly?
Yeah. So if you don't know what a network is, it's hard to explain. It's like a overarching thing where they partner with a bunch of different YouTubers or creators. They help them basically get brand deals, sponsorships, that kind of stuff. They take a percentage of your affiliate, or not your affiliate, your AdSense revenue. And I think the one that I was with was taking, started off at 20% of my AdSense revenue, and then within a year, we had it lowered down to 10%, just through negotiating and stuff. And they also offer like the reason I joined this one is I wanted to try to get collaborations with other people that were also under their network. My network was called The Whistle, and it had a lot of sports people under it. Dude Perfect was one of the names that got me excited. And when I had joined, they had like 5 people in their network, and it was like Dude Perfect, another huge person that's in the basketball world on YouTube at the time. I can't remember who exactly. I think it was Shot Science, maybe Shot Mechanics, but all these big ones, with Dude Perfect being the biggest one. So I was like, man, I'm in. Like, let's do this. Like, I'm going to be amongst these other people. Never really used it for collaborations, but they did get me sponsorships. So the first one that they got me, and it was nice because I didn't have to really negotiate too much. I'm sure that they were probably scraping off the top. I don't even know. But like you said, my sponsorships were about $3,000 each. And I also got like some free gear and stuff too. But mostly I partnered with Wilson Basketball. I partnered with Nike to do a shoe review video and a whole bunch of, and then also with like a basketball, like a smart ball. Like, so there's these basketballs that track your dribbling, track your shooting. They're pretty not common nowadays, but you see them all the time. But this is like the first one. And yeah, they were all probably about 3K deals, and they worked out quite nicely. And I felt like that 10% that I was giving to the whistle made up for it, just because, I probably could have got sponsorships myself, but I wasn't really trying to do that. Just wasn't focused on it. But now I know that sponsorships can be a huge part of your total income. And, I watched a video, I think even yesterday, where someone was making $300,000 a year on YouTube, and I think they made $100,000 in AdSense and $100,000 in sponsorships. And so that's huge right there. And then they had other income as well. So yeah, that's my experience.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you brought up companies giving you products, and obviously you're getting money on top of that. But one thing that you will find is some companies will only want to pay you in product. And I think at the very beginning of your YouTube career, if your channel's relatively small, let's say you're getting 10,000 views a month or something, even 5,000. And some company is like, hey, we want to give you a $300 gaming chair. It might be worth it for you at the time. But keep in mind that kind of once you start to feel like you've hit that mid-tier YouTuber level, you should absolutely be getting paid, and you should never only be getting product, pretty much no matter what the product is, unless it's like super expensive and it's super nice and totally worth it, unless it's overtly obvious that this product is worth it and you don't need any money on top of it. You should always be getting paid. I think there's a certain amount of, what's the word, like appeal to getting free stuff. And especially if it's a company like Nike, like you saying you worked with Nike. A lot of people, I think, if Nike approached you and they just wanted to give you free stuff, people would get so excited they might just say yes. But you should remember that YouTube is also a business, and it's good to be excited, but you should also be smart, you should be wise, and you should know your worth. And yeah. So another big part of sponsorships is negotiating when the advertisement is going to be in your video. So in the earlier days of YouTube, it was a lot more common to have post-roll sponsorships. So that's at the end of the video, you have an advertisement. And maybe in like the first 5 seconds, you would have, this video is sponsored by blah, blah, blah. Stay tuned to the end of this video for more information. But now it's much more common for companies to want to put your stuff in the beginning of the video. My advice, never ever put a sponsorship as the first part of your video unless they are paying you bank. Okay, the reason for this is the beginning of a video is the most important part. If you are not hooking somebody, then your watch time is going to be trash. So you do not want to give away the golden part of your video to somebody who is not going to be paying you for what that may do to your video. So you want to be very careful about that.
Yeah, and I think you can say that to the sponsor, right? Like, hey, they want at the beginning to say, hey, we need to put it in the middle, because if we put it at the beginning, then YouTube's not going to promote this video. People aren't going to see it. And if we put it in the middle, then it gives it a chance, and it's going to get way more views. You're going to get a better return on your investment. So that's a good idea. And one thing I would mention is, I've put sponsors in my videos and stuff. This is on my basketball training channel, but now at VidChops, we actually sponsor other videos. So we've sponsored videos. Not a ton, but a little bit on Think Media's channel, and kind of what you just mentioned is exactly what it was. And kind of the whole process was great. Working with them was, all right, you're going to get this mid-roll, I think it was 30 sec, or I think it was 20 second. It was 20 or 30 seconds. And send us the script, and we sent it over. They revised it a little bit, sent it back, and that was it. They threw a logo on the screen, put the link in the description. And it worked out well for us. And on the other end, like for the sponsors, like you said, it's so powerful. Like, how do you build relationships and make strategic partnerships with these people? I mean, everyone knows Mr. Beast. What was a sponsor he had for a super long time? Honey, right? I think, isn't that the Google Chrome plugin, Honey?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been sponsored by them before.
Wow. So there's a good example right there of a company that they're just sponsoring everybody. Right, because what they have to offer it's not like super niche, right? It's like, it saves you money. It allows you on as your checkout from any kind of store online. If there's any promo codes, it like scrapes the internet for them and will throw a promo code in there and try to save you some money, which is crazy to think. But everybody could benefit from that. So yeah, so they're just sponsoring up everybody. But yeah, Mr. Beast with Honey, he made his little sponsorship ad slots kind of funny sometimes. He just like, they weren't boring. Like he spiced them up, and I felt like, as on the creator side, you do want to deliver value in it. Don't just like speed through it, or try to find an angle maybe where you can like pitch it to your audience in a cool way where it seems beneficial to them and it's not just like scammy and just like whatever. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a tangent there, but that's kind of my kind of feeling on how you should actually deliver these ads. So maybe we should talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you deliver the ads in your videos, Grant?
So the main thing that we would always keep in mind is you want to make sure you're giving something before an advertisement. So what I mean by that is, if you have a sponsor in the middle of your video, you want to, let's say it's 3 minutes into the video, you want that first 3 minutes before the ad to feel like it's interesting, and like the audience has gotten something out of that 3 minutes. And you obviously want to leave them wanting more so that they're either willing to watch the ad or skip over the ad. But the point is, you want them to not click off the video. So if you have it too early in the video, let's say you put it like a minute in and you've barely said anything, you've barely made any points, then people may feel like they're getting gypped or something. They have to wait too long to get to the good stuff. And, this is an attention economy, and people can get what they want by clicking another video. So it is somewhat competitive, and you want to make sure that the first, we'll say 3 minutes of your video before an ad is like catchy enough. So I guess some examples of that are, the most recent sponsorship I did was back in December, and we made a video about this game that had just come out called Deltarune, and we put a sponsorship on that video. And we wanted to make sure that we talked about at least one interesting main point and kind of wrapped it up before we got to the ad. That way, people could feel like there was substance here. And that, like, people can notice if it feels like you just put this video out to put a sponsorship on it. You should never want a video to feel like you only got it out because somebody emailed you and was like, hey, we'll pay you $5,000. Because I think we've all seen videos like that. So yeah, make sure that you give something before the ad. And then during the ad, so there's a bit of a balance here when somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, we need you to do X, Y, and Z for this particular ad slot. Well, you do have some negotiating power. So let's say X, Y, and Z is like, you need to read this paragraph word for word. You need to say these 3 phrases word for word. Some companies can get very specific, but it might be kind of boring. Maybe they're not very good at this. Maybe you know your audience better. Maybe you know how to make your audience engaged with this ad better than the sponsor does. And if that's the case, if you feel in your mind that your sponsor is giving you bad advice, essentially, then you should tell them that. Like, hey, I think I can do things better, and I know my style. I know how to, what if instead of saying this paragraph, I did this paragraph and there's more jokes in it, and you still need to kind of say the important information, like click this link for 10% off for the next 3 weeks, blah, blah, blah. It's like you may have to say those things, but just be very aware of how you're packaging this and don't just half-ass the ad. I think that can be kind of appealing, especially, you make a whole video and then you got to slap an ad in there, and then it's like, oh God, I have to edit another minute and a half or something. Put the time in. Like, if you can make it feel like an entertaining video in and of itself with that sponsorship, then all the better. Especially if you're someone who gets a reputation for having hilarious commercials in your videos. Like Internet Historian is a great example of this. I watch all of his ads. Like he had an advertisement for Raycon earbuds. So they're like wireless earbuds. And his ad was, he like shows this animation of a father and son walking down the street. And it's like a hilarious, silly, meme animation. And then his dad is wearing wired earbuds and the wires get caught on a tree branch and rip his dad's head off.
That's pretty good.
And then so the son grows up traumatized. If only his father had Raycon wireless earbuds. And it was hilarious. It was so funny. So, get creative with it and you can keep people's attention. And I think Internet Historian is an outlier. It's easier said than done to have an ad that is interesting in and of itself. But, you got to be careful. So like Augie, are there any examples you can think of where you felt like you spiced up an ad and like it was entertaining in and of itself?
That's a tough one. I mean, I know that when I did deliver the ad parts, I mean, one of mine was actually a review, right? So for the Nike, it was the new Nike Kyrie shoes coming out. So I did a review on them, and that was basically the ad. I didn't have any kind of pitch in there. It was literally just the review. It was the sponsorship, and I did definitely make a great video, and I made sure that it was one that was going to get a lot of views. And like you said, it did not feel so much like an ad, but just did a great job highlighting these new shoes. And like we said earlier, you want to build that long lasting relationship. So that's kind of the main reason you want to put effort in. If they're going to watch the ad, right? Somebody on their team is going to watch it and he's going to review it. And he's going to be like, if he says that was awesome, then that's going to be more dollars in your pocket. If he's kind of like, should I ask for a revision? Just let it go. Whatever, we just won't work with them in the future, then yeah, you're not going to get that money in the future. And as far as like the time up to your ad, right? We're talking about that. We all know the way. We've all seen it before. Like it's like the climax of something, but first a word from our sponsor, right? And so like I think that's a great strategy because we want to like keep watch time and we're really concerned about the dip with sponsorships. Oh, I won't take any sponsorships. Like no, at some point you need to start taking sponsorships if you want to go full time and just make sure they don't, you might be worried they're going to hurt your videos, but try that out, climax, but first a word from our sponsors. And we've all heard that. I think as viewers and stuff, like when we hear that, we're like, an ad. But we're like, okay, we know it's an ad real quick. All right, we're going to be kind of like, wait for it. All right, it's over. And then keep it going. So what do you think about that?
I think that's great. I think you said it better than I did. So when I say like give something before an ad, I think your strategy is more specific and it's tried and true. So I even say if you give too much before an ad and people feel like there was a sense of closure, then they may not want to keep watching. Like maybe they got enough. They feel like they had their experience with your video and they're done with it. But when you have the building up, word from our sponsor, then you've left it on a cliffhanger, and it's that can be very valuable for sure.
Yeah, and even just you saying that and then saying, and now a word from our sponsor. I feel like I've heard that like at least 10,000 times in my life. Yeah, and so we talked a little bit earlier before we close this one out. We talked a little earlier about scams. Have you ever been approached with anything that you thought was maybe a scam or anything like that? Because I mean, this sponsorship world kind of is the wild, wild west, right? You can get somebody's YouTube email right off their YouTube channel, and you could send them an email and pitch them anything. Have you ever ran into that?
So this scam, I'm not 100% sure it was a scam because I didn't end up taking it. It wasn't a sponsorship. So what happened was this company they were supposedly building an app that would conglomerate like all of your income streams and kind of give you a useful readout. That's what they told us. So you'd essentially be able to understand your YouTube finances better, something like that. And they wanted to pay $1,000 to have access to all of my YouTube channel's data. So that includes revenue, views, all the different revenue sources. And apparently, though, the word got around and I learned that there were people doing what these people were doing, which was trying to get access to people's YouTube channels and essentially hack them. And I don't know what they would do exactly, but maybe delete your channel or just hack it and have some stupid live stream advertising fake cryptocurrency on your channel. Something like that. I never took it, so I don't know if what they were doing was legit, but it was kind of scary. And you do want to be careful, especially some companies may want access to your channel in a weird way. I would say if any company wants access to your YouTube channel and you don't have a history with them, if you can't verify who they are. So that was one thing about this company was all they had was a splash page. They didn't have there was no history with them. It was just kind of like I had to take this guy's word for what they were saying. So yeah, that's kind of the closest. I don't think there was any super sketchy sponsorships that we took or almost took. But I think there's many different ways to monetize, and you do want to be careful for sure.
Yeah, I mean that actually does sound like it could have been a scam, like a real scam. And I guess when I asked the question, I guess scam isn't really the right word that I'm thinking. What I'm talking about is just you get hit up a lot. Like you're getting hit up by a lot of not a ton, but I would say for me once a week. I mean, or maybe once a month. I don't know. It's kind of a while ago now. Some company was emailing me for some kind of deal, and sometimes they weren't sponsorship related, but they were trying to get money out of me. And yeah, I mean, random, hey, we're starting a shoe company. This is going to be competing with Nike, Under Armour. This is going to be the next big thing. And then, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm actually getting excited about this. I can get in the ground floor. And they were a legitimate company, but it was just like a flash in the pan, right? It was here today, gone tomorrow type thing. And I don't know what kind of deal we would ever work out, but it probably wouldn't have been one where I was winning in the deal, since they were just here today, gone tomorrow. So yeah, that's that. I'm sure you've got tons of emails. You probably had to filter tons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is one reason why it's so important to get money up front. Is it may seem like, oh, I could get in on the ground floor of this company that sounds really cool, but there's no guarantee. Especially I'm 30 now. I've seen the birth and death of plenty of companies out there. I think maybe if you're a little younger, maybe early 20s, late teens or something, it's more appealing to want to get paid in equity for a company, like a new company. Right. But man, I don't know. Chances of you actually getting anything substantial or worth your time from that is very low. Always get money up front. Always, always, always. Unless, I don't even know a caveat to this. I guess if your intuition is on fire and is telling you that this is going to be the next big thing. But I mean, how many times does that happen where people are like, oh, this is going to be huge. I'm going to be rich. And then nothing happens. That happens all the time. And I think that is good to be aware of.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So we've covered a lot of bases here. We've talked about making sure to always get money up front, always verify the history of any company that you may potentially be working with. A good goal is 3,000 views for every, $3,000 for every 100,000 views. So obviously that means $1,500 for every 50,000 views as well. So these are kind of the basics. Never take commission deals, just straight up commission deals, unless it's an affiliate program, which is different. But now I did want to make a clarification about mid-roll sponsorships. So when you have an ad in the middle of your video, make sure that you should be getting more money for that than if you had an ad at the end of your video. So a big kind of negotiation point is when an advertisement should be in your video. An option for you, if you don't want to have an ad in the middle of your video for whatever reason, a good reason for this is you think this video has the chance to blow up and it has a chance to do super well. which will give you lots of attention. It'll get you lots of ad revenue, blah, blah, blah. You may not want to have a sponsor in the middle of your video because that's going to hurt your watch time and it's going to hurt this video's chances of exploding to the moon. So what you may want to do is come back to the sponsor and be like, hey, we really like your product. We really want to pitch your stuff. But for this particular video, we'd rather put you at the end. Could you pay us a bit less and then have the ad be at the end of the video? This is always an option. Sometimes they may not go for it, but I think there are situations where you're trying to maximize watch time, where it is wise to get paid a little less for an ad that is less likely to hurt your video's watch time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. If it's going to be take 10% off or something, I think that maybe start with that, right? Be like, oh, could I put it at the end? And, I'll give you a discount on the ad, 10% off or something. If they go for that, then that was some pretty good negotiating, I would say, on your end.
Yeah. And then I guess like negotiation basics, maybe we should have started with this, but always ask for more than you think you'll get. Because chances are they know it's too much, so then they're going to bump it down. And then, if you ask for exactly what you want, then they're probably going to bump it down from there. So you always want to start a bit higher. That's kind of negotiating 101, but just something to keep in mind. So hopefully now you feel more comfortable with the weird world of sponsorships. It always is, it can be jarring to have a company that is somehow inserted into your artistic expression. But don't worry, lots of people do this. It is totally legitimate. Do not let the haters get to you, and make sure that you are being true to yourself, however, that whatever you're pitching matches your brand, matches your morals, and is something that will inspire you, something that you would actually use or your friends might actually use. And the world of sponsorships is yours. It's your oyster. You can do it. Seriously. Like, I know it sounds daunting, kind of making your own money by talking to companies and having commercials. Imagine you making commercials, but it works and it happens. And I've done it for years, and Augie's done it for years. And it's honestly not that hard. So we've talked a lot of the most important information to stay safe and to stay successful in this world. And I hope sincerely that it has helped you out.